Hello everyone and welcome back to another IELTS writing video. Today we're going to be focusing on the area of linking words. Now, this is actually the second of two linking word videos that I have recorded, and the first one can be found on my IELTS speaking course. Now, you can go and see that for free elsewhere on my website. You don't actually need to pay for that course to see these videos. So if you are watching this video, I strongly suggest that you check out the video that I did on the speaking course too. And the reason for that is because in this video, I will cover three categories of linking words. And in that other video, I also cover another three. So it doesn't actually matter which exam you're doing. These 6 categories of linking words can be used on both. And yeah, if you're wondering what linking words are, of course, during the speaking and writing exams, you will have to link all of your ideas together, whether you're adding information, giving contrast, or giving reason, and many other categories. And we're going to cover a whole range that you can use. So you can use a variety of them during your exams and hopefully raise your band score in doing so. So, as always, let's go into these categories and I will share my screen with you now. Okay, everyone, so before we go into the 3 categories of linking words that you can see on the screen in front of you, I'd just like to talk about why I've included a linking words video in this writing course and also over in my speaking course. So whenever students do either of those exams, it's very common that when they are linking their ideas together, it can be very common to repeat the same linking word over and over again. Now, a little bit of repetition is not a bad thing on the IELTS, but too much repetition or repetition that is very much noticeable to the examiner is not going to get you the higher band scores, okay? So whenever you're talking about a particular topic or writing about a particular topic, it's very common to repeat basic linking words. So if you're adding information or giving contrast or giving reason, it could be very common to repeat the words and, but, and because. Now, these are basic words, so using them a couple of times is absolutely no problem. But during the speaking exam and the writing exam, you are going to be linking many ideas together. So you really want to prove to the examiner that you've got a good range of vocabulary and a good range of linking words and phrases. So in the speaking video, we covered adding information, giving contrast, and also generalizing. But in the video today, we're going to cover these 3 categories, and they are giving examples, giving reason, and something we did in a previous IELTS writing video, sequencing your ideas. Okay, so let's start with giving examples. Now, as you can see with the first one, this is the one that most people use. They would say, for example, when giving an example. Another couple of phrases that you can use, though, are right here. You can use the phrase for instance, or you could even use the more formal namely. Now, that's quite an uncommon one. So I've got an example of it down here. Just an example sentence. So there are 2 main problems, namely, comma, make sure you've got a comma, it is an adverbial, the expense and the time. So namely is used when you're actually naming the examples, or in this case, the 2 problems. All right. To move on to the next category, we've got giving reason. And as I said, the most basic way of giving reason in English is to use the word because or because of, depending on the sentence. Now, a lot of people don't realize this, but there are 2 interchangeable words that you can use instead of because, and they are since and as. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So let's say, because the company is getting bigger, they are taking on extra staff. You can just replace because with since or as. So for example, since the company are getting bigger, or since the company is getting bigger, they are taking on extra staff. And then you can say, as the company is getting bigger, they are taking on extra staff. So all of these are interchangeable. Okay. Right. Now, this is a good point to tell you that not all linking word variants are interchangeable. Okay. And I gave an example of a couple of these in the speaking video, but this works in a similar way to those. So you couldn't say due to the company is getting bigger or owing to. That wouldn't be good English. Now, we'll get into some examples with these in just a second, but you can see on the left here that as this list goes down, the examples become a little bit more formal. Since and as are basically the same, but due to and owing to, these are more formal than the phrases above it. But it would be good to use something like this because not only is it more formal, but it also requires you to know the grammar of these words. And we're going to get into that right now. So there are a couple of ways you can use, we're going to go with due to. I'll give you the example of due to. So example number one, the football match was cancelled due to the bad weather. So due to here is followed by a noun phrase. So the noun is weather. We're just qualifying it with an adjective. So the bad weather. So that's like saying because of. You can just replace it with due to. However, you cannot replace, you cannot follow due to with a subject like I, you, he, she, etc. So you can't say due to he or due to I, all right? If you want to do that, you actually have to add a few more words, and they are the fact that. So for example, he was not allowed into class. Why? Due to the fact that he was 20 minutes late, okay? And then you can follow it with the subject he, okay? Right, so moving on to the last category. Now, we did a little bit of this before, but I've got a couple of extra examples here, especially this one here, the former and the latter. I think this has come up a couple of times in the course already, and also the following. Now, in a previous video, I talked about starting a sequence with firstly or first of all, but not at first. And you can go and check out my previous video to see why, because this phrase means initially and it's not used with a sequence. So firstly, secondly, next, then, and then you finish with finally or lastly, but not at last. And again, that has a slightly different meaning. Now, to give you a couple of example sentences with these. The following is used when you're about to give some examples. So I think there are more advantages and disadvantages about a particular topic for the following reasons. And then you introduce your reason. So it's a good way of introducing your points. And then the former and the latter. Now, these two examples relate to two things that you have already said. Okay, for example, we offer two courses, intensive English and general English. The former is more expensive than the latter. Okay, so the first thing you said was intensive English. That is more expensive than the latter, which is general English. So the former is more expensive than the latter. And it's a good thing to use when you've got two examples and you want to make your language more formal. Okay. So those are my examples for these categories. If you do get the opportunity in your IELTS writing or even your speaking to use a few of these examples to raise those band scores, then absolutely do so. Okay, and that's all for another video. So if you're working on my website, you can now scroll down to do a linking word exercise for yourself. And in the final interactive task, we'll be going back to writing task 2. So as always, I look forward to seeing your work, and I look forward to seeing you all in another video very soon.